Here's what I know is true. Most weight loss plans are one size fits all. So frustrating. They don't take into account each person's individual needs, which could mean dietary restrictions, medical issues, or other personal needs. That's why you're going to love Noom. It's built for your psychology and your biology, meeting you where you are. Noom's personalized programs feel more sustainable than any other, more restrictive weight loss programs. And also, it doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself, and that's important. I like this company because it's got a psychology and biology-based approach and a super easy app to use with lots of great features, including daily lessons, coaching, and flexibility. I think it's your time to start. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit Noom.com for more information. Now, we both know that shopping for a rug can be challenging. You've either got insanely expensive handcrafted rugs or the mass-produced alternatives that won't hold up. But that's where Revival Rugs comes in. Revival's founders didn't want to spend thousands on a new rug, but they didn't want to settle for less either. Revival is a global company with teams in the U.S. as well as weaving regions in India, Turkey, and Morocco. Revival works with artisans to preserve rug-making traditions and pass on this value to you. Eliminating middlemen allows them to remove steep markups, giving you amazing value at incredible prices. And Revival's popular washable rugs have the look and feel of a real rug, so you don't have to sacrifice style for convenience. And my favorite, which I ordered, is the sweatshirt rug, and I also love the stripe rug. So spruce up your space with Revival Rugs. Visit revivalrugs.com/realitylife and use code KateCasey20 for 20% off your first order. That's revivalrugs.com/realitylife, code KateCasey20. One more time, revivalrugs.com/realitylife with code KateCasey20 to save 20%. Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey. Lori Vallow Daybell, also referred to as the Doomsday Mom, was born Lori Cox in Loma Linda, California. At the age of 19, she married her high school boyfriend, but the marriage ended in divorce shortly afterwards. She married again, and she had a son named Colby in 1996, but then divorced in 1998. In 2001, she married Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., who legally adopted Colby. Their daughter, Tylee, was born in 2002. Lori and Ryan divorced in 2005 and had a bitter custody battle during which she accused him of sexually assaulting their children. In February 2006, Lori married Charles Vallow. In 2013, the couple adopted Charles' grandnephew, Joshua Jackson J.J. Vallow, because the boy's birth parents were unable to take care of him. In 2015, Lori, who was raised in the Mormon Church, became interested in Chad Daybell's Standing in Holy Places series of books. In the years after, she became increasingly invested in radical religious beliefs. She read books about near-death experiences and also listened to podcasts that were led by excommunicated Mormons. Chad Daybell and his wife Tammy moved from Utah to Rexburg, Idaho in 2015, after Chad had claimed to have heard voices telling him to relocate there. Now, that same year, Lori became interested in that series of doomsday-focused books, and they're loosely based on Mormon teachings. Chad was an apocalyptic author and publisher who claimed to have visions of the future, had lived through multiple past lives, and had prophecies that the world would end in July of 2020. When Chad met Lori in 2018, he told her that she was a sexual goddess who had been married to him several times and in previous lifetimes. He claimed people were represented by light or dark, which meant Jesus or Satan, and that Lori was meant to help him save the world by gathering 144,000 followers to prepare for the second coming of Christ. The following year, their doomsday beliefs began to intertwine with some very scary encounters. In February of 2019, Lori's husband, Charles Vallow, said that Lori had claimed to be the reincarnated wife of Mormonism founder Joseph Smith, and that she no longer cared for him or for JJ. Charles fought for a divorce soon after and sought a protection order from her because it was due to a genuine fear for his life. In July of 2019, Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shot and killed Charles in Arizona in what was called an act of self-defense. In December of 2019, Alex Cox died of natural causes due to a blood clot and high blood pressure, according to authorities. Now, his widow testified he had always sought Lori and Chad's permission or approval before making any decisions. Further, Chad had told Alex he was a warrior and Lori's protector, and Lori moved to Idaho with her children to be closer to him. In October of 2019, a masked man threatened Chad's wife, Tammy, in her driveway. She believed it was a paintball gun, but 10 days later, she died in her sleep from what was initially declared natural causes. Chad refused to allow an autopsy and then married Lori 2 weeks after her death. Now, also in October, an unidentified shooter inside a Jeep registered to Charles Vallow fired at Brandon Boudreaux as he was returning home from the gym in Arizona. The bullet missed his head by inches, according to court documents. At the time, he was in the process of finalizing a divorce from his wife, Melanie, who was Lori's niece. He later said that Melanie had asked for the divorce after spending time with Lori and a religious group earlier in the summer. Investigators now believe that Alex Cox was the suspect in the incident and that Lori had identified Brandon as a dark spirit. Now also, in November of 2019, so this is a month before Alex's death, police had questioned Lori about the whereabouts of her daughter, Tylee, in response to requests from extended family members. She had been last seen alive in September of 2019. Lori, who had previously withdrawn her kids from school, claimed that they were staying in Arizona with a family friend by the name of Melanie Gibb. But Melanie said that wasn't true. The children's cases attracted media attention as Lori and Chad refused to cooperate with law enforcement. As police investigated Tylee's whereabouts, they also discovered JJ was missing. Gibb later told police that Lori and Chad had asked her to lie about the location of the children, but she had refused. She also said Lori had come to believe in zombies, and that she called JJ and Tylee zombies several times in the past, believing them to be possessed. And as the investigation intensified, Tammy's body was exhumed by authorities, and an autopsy revealed she had been murdered by asphyxiation. In February of 2020, Lori was arrested in Hawaii for desertion and non-support of her children and was extradited to Idaho. So the question was, where were Tylee and JJ? Well, their bodies were found in June of 2020, buried in shallow graves in Chad's backyard in Rexburg, Idaho. Chad was arrested later that day for destruction or concealment of evidence. On May 25, 2021, Lori and Chad were charged with counts related to the murders of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. On May 12, 2023, Lori was found guilty of all charges related to the killings of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. On July 31st, she was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. On May 30th, 2024, Chad was also found guilty of all charges. Lori will represent herself in the second trial for the July 2019 murder of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. As mentioned, Charles was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who died in December of 2019, but she is charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The jury selection was likely to begin at the end of March of this month, with opening statements tentatively scheduled for April 7th. Now, I interviewed Skye Borgman, director of Sins of Our Mother, which was a Netflix documentary series which examined how Lori spiraled downward into religious fanaticism and paranoia to find herself and her fifth husband, Chad Daybell, standing trial for murder. That interview is in episode 535. Keith Morrison from Dateline just featured a Jailhouse Interview with Lori. This was her first public interview. Lori, who is combative and denies everything she's been accused of in the chaotic interview, says that she will actually be exonerated. You can watch Keith Morrison's exclusive interview with Lori on the Dateline episode Lori Vallow Daybell, the Jailhouse Interview, and it is now on Peacock. In this episode, I chat with Amy Phillips, who is the host of Drama Darlings podcast, about what we thought about that interview. Here's my interview with Amy. Amy Phillips, we have watched a lot of reality TV. We have observed the craziest behavior on reality TV. And now here we are with Lori Vallow Daybell. How far does this story go back for you? Have you been following it from the beginning? Did you watch the Netflix doc about her?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't in. I just saw the headlines at the very beginning, kind of jumped in a little later down the line. But either way, I was immersed in it at some point or another.
Do you remember when they were in Hawaii and the cameramen would follow them?
Yes.
And they would be holding hands, like, where are your children? Where are your children?
It was, and if you would see that footage and you wouldn't hear the audio, you'd think that they were like reality stars from 90 Day,
Absolutely.
On their honeymoon. And
yeah.
I've never seen such a character of epic, disturbing proportions as this in plain sight. I mean, we've seen a lot, but this is unbelievable.
You know what I think it is too? I think it's like a reality star in a true crime documentary. Like, we study her like we would study a Real Housewife. She has all these husbands. She seems to have that housewife like delusion, like I call it celebrity syndrome. There's imposter syndrome where you feel like you don't match up or you don't fit in, like you're not worthy of something. But I feel like they have celebrity syndrome where they were born thinking, I am a celebrity, and that's without any skill set. Yes. They just walk through life like, duh, I'm a big deal. She has that element, but then also you have the true crime element where all these people are being murdered, and you have the cult vibe too. So it's almost like everything that we're so fascinated with right now in pop culture when it comes to unscripted, I feel like it's all come together in this one story. Like everything that
what a way to put it. That's perfect.
Are most fascinated. Yeah.
She's a triple threat.
She's a triple threat. She's a triple threat. Now, let's talk a little bit about her in general. Someone who is married this many times carries themselves like none of the rules of the world apply to them. And it seems to really kick into high gear when she meets Chad. But when I watch the documentary and you find out about her story of origin, her family of origin, there's already something missing a beat. And Alex Cox, her weird brother, he had been married for a short period of time. And the woman, I think, left him after like 4 or 5 months. And she said, I could not take it. The family is so weird. The parents would be overly sexual and talk about their sex life in front of their kids. So a lack of boundaries. And
wow.
People that knew the family said there was this very weird relationship between Lori Vallow and her brother Alex. Like he was fixated on her sexually. He would like brush her body sometimes. She'd walk around in a bikini. It was almost like she knew she had a hold on him.
I'm so happy to hear this because this makes so much more sense now why he would go down this road and co-sign everything that she's doing. I had no clue about this, Kate.
And apparently one of their friends said if she said jump, he'd say how high. He would just fixate on her from the time he was young. And then you have to wonder, well, where does that derive from? There's a lack of boundaries in the house. So I could never I interviewed the director of the Netflix documentary about Lori Vallow. And she said they couldn't get like concrete evidence of it, but it was something that it's been floating in their circle and their family for a long time. This question of where this all began and if there was incest, because the fact that this brother and sister are so inappropriate in front of people to the point that other people are uncomfortable. And how that got to the point where she seems to be able at some point to just ask him, go kill my husbands. And he would do it. It's wild.
Her angel of death?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's face it, weight loss can feel overwhelming. That's why Hers is changing the game. By providing access to GLP-1 medications plus expert care, they make your goals more achievable. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans delivered straight to your door if prescribed. Hers offers a holistic weight loss program with personalized solutions including compounded GLP-1 weekly injections featuring the same active ingredient as Ozempic and Wegovy or oral medication kits. So after submitting an online intake form, a licensed medical provider will determine what plan is best for you. And if prescribed, your program includes medication, ongoing care, and online support, and all at one cost. So if you've been struggling with your weight loss journey, it's time for you to find the best option that works for you through Hers. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/KateCasey. That's forhers.com/Kate Casey for your personalized weight loss treatment options. forhers.com/Kate Casey. Hers weight loss is not available everywhere. Compatible products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Restrictions apply. Wegovy and Ozempic are not compounded. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. I love the look of luxury, but knowing that I got it at a great price. And I feel like you're like me too. And that's why I know you're going to love Quince. Quince is my go-to for luxury essentials at affordable prices. I get DMs all the time. Where did you get that sweater? I'm telling you, I got it at Quince. You know why? They offer high quality items at prices within reach. And the best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. So they do this by partnering directly with top factories. So Quince cuts the cost of the middleman and then passes the savings on to us. And the best part, it only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And who doesn't love that? In fact, the thing you need to get right now are the toasted almond silk pajamas. It's a beautiful gift for someone in your life or just for yourself. So give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/Kate Casey for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/Kate Casey to get your free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Kate Casey. I was looking up about her mental diagnosis. There was a 2023 psychiatric diagnosis.
Okay.
And they said that she suffers from delusional disorder intertwined with hyper-religiosity and an unspecified personality disorder with narcissistic features. And I thought that was interesting. Unspecified personality disorder. It's almost as if she's created a new disorder.
Yeah. That's interesting. I couldn't quite. I'm happy to hear that. I keep saying happy. It's not that. I'm delighted. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm so fascinated. So I'm glad that you're bringing this to the table because I was trying to find what it was that she, has, and I couldn't find exactly except for the delusional, and then maybe associated with could be bipolar. But they didn't ever use that word. So this is wild because you're right. It is a personality disorder has so many branches to it that, it can go anywhere. And when you couple it with the hyperfixation on religion, that takes it to a whole different level. So all of these things. And I have so many questions about her medication, because obviously when she went away for a little while before she was able to stand trial, she was treated.
Right.
And so when she came out, but to see this interview with Keith Morrison, that the level of delusion is still at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Was fascinating to see.
They also said there have been reports that every day that she's in her cell, she's dancing and singing and laughing. And I'm on the fence about to what level this is manipulation. So in terms of the hyper-religiosity, Chad, her fifth husband, he at some point becomes a guru of sorts. Now he's like a grave digger. He's like this dumpy, dorky guy, but he gets this sense of leadership or fandom around these books that he writes about the end of days. So he tells Alex that he's been put on this earth to protect Lori from zombies. So Alex already has a weird relationship with Lori. And now Chad is saying, you are here to protect her. They have these weird zombie views about the end of the world. And they seem to have this belief that they have seen visions of the afterlife and that Jesus is super proud of the way they're conducting themselves.
And he's got a great sense of humor.
Great sense of humor. Do they really believe in this nonsense, or are they using it as an excuse so that they can make more money and profit off it? Because look at them. They're like in Hawaii at this beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
So it's confusing.
It's confusing to figure out whether or not they have an actual goal. Was this a scheme?
Yeah.
Or was this delusion? And I happen to think that the delusion by default turned into scheming because they were just responding too, because how can, her keeping up this level of mental instability? I'm just saying what my view is, my opinion, watching her. Obviously, I can't diagnose what she has, but I'm just saying when you see her in this interview, she is on another planet. So is this performative?
Yeah.
Is she doing this to keep up? Because you can't have what I learned, what I didn't realize, Kate, and I'm sure you probably knew this, but in Utah, you cannot plead insanity. It doesn't exist. There is a level of, do you want to bring in your mental capacity to it? You can bring that in on some level, but you cannot plead insanity. And that always confused me because I was like, well, clearly she wasn't right. So why isn't this part of the defense? Well, one, she didn't even want to bring in it being a mental thing at all. And two, they rendered her, they basically decided that she was capable of standing trial after that time. But what I learned is it doesn't take much. All you have to know is like what happens in a court. Like, what does a judge do? What does a jury do? Do you understand how these proceedings work? And then you're fine. Just because you are, they deem you capable to stand trial doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually sane. So I have a real issue with all of that to begin with, because I personally think that she is not sane, wasn't sane when all of this happened. And so now she's representing herself in court for the next trial. A person who, to me, when we're looking at her, doesn't look well at all, isn't acting well at all. How is this even allowed?
Well, we're also just pawns for her. She truly has narcissism in the worst way. And so when I saw her with Keith, and the fact that he said it was just 90 minutes of just her talking in circles.
Oh, the podcast, the offshoot Dateline podcast, he was like, it was a filibuster.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a perfect way to say it, that she was filibustering the whole time.
Yeah. Because she thinks we're all dumb. So if you think that we're all dumb, you can't, the argument that you're not mentally sane it doesn't fit, because she's still trying to control everyone, even in a jailhouse interview. And also the part where she said that she believes she'll be exonerated, and then on Dancing with the Stars one day.
Yeah, that killed me. I was like, now we've got, like you said, you put it perfectly in the beginning, as we mentioned, this is like a hat trick, right?
Yeah.
Triple threat. She's got everything. She's got the reality star aspect of like a Real Housewife. I mean, I immediately thought of Sheena. I was like, oh, she wants Dancing with the Stars. She actually thinks that that's within her grasp. And really, if she was somehow innocent in some capacity, she's right. She would be on Dancing with the Stars, because that's where our world is right now.
Right.
But and she thinks that that's within her grasp. She's putting it out there. The fact that she was even willing to do an interview with Keith Morrison to begin with, knowing how he's covered this. And she thinks that she can outsmart him and drag him along and think that she'll get another interview and just keep going with this. I know what you're saying about with the narcissism. How can you shoehorn that into an area of which she's not mentally stable? But I think that's a part of being so mentally unstable. And this interview proved how unstable of a person that she is, that it is remarkable to me that she isn't in a mental institution. I just don't understand it, Kate.
Yeah. And what about the part where she said, she's almost bragging that relatives tell her that someone writes about her on a blog every day. Well, it happened 5 years ago, so you're like obsessed with me. It's like gaslighting too. Like, why are you guys so obsessed with me? Like, when are you going to address the fact that you killed your children? When? Let's talk about some of the comments that she's made. Now, it's my understanding too that she did an interview last year with her son on his podcast, and she implied that her daughter might have killed her son accidentally. Tylee would have killed JJ accidentally, according to her, and filled with grief, she then took her own life. But the coroner said that she died likely 2 weeks before JJ. So now she's trying to perpetuate the story that her own daughter, whom she had killed, according to prosecutors, killed her own brother and then took her own life.
Mm-hmm.
The level of evil knows no bounds.
No. Her son, Colby, right, on this YouTube, and he's asking her these hard questions. I mean, what happened? And she thinks that she can get away with telling him this. And with her explaining her version of events and saying that when she showed up, she didn't know where they went after that, after the follow-up questions being, well, then how come they were found as they were in that state that they were in? How do you explain that? Well, I don't know. I just showed up and, I don't know what happened after that. Was she there? Kate, do you think that she was there and part of it? You said that you think that Alex did it alone, or do you think Alex and Chad did it alone and she wasn't anywhere near it?
Well, prosecutors believe that Alex did it and that Chad, because he had this property and he had been a gravedigger, that he participated in the
I see.
The removal of the bodies or burying them. I think that she operates like a true cult leader where she just has, people that are beneath her, and then she gives the executive order and then she walks away with her hands clean. So, she's using, mental gymnastics to make sense of it to Keith Morrison, but she's first sort of twisting it like, well, what do you think? Well, you're the one that's asking me. You're obsessed. But she seems very strategic in the way she's like, I don't know what happened, because I think in her mind, the way to justify it is to say, well, I kind of, they did it and I'm removed from it, because I think she just gives people orders. I also think she has made sense of this in her mind. Like, I think in the end, her biggest priority is always men. It's never been children. It's never been friends. It's never been anything, but that's why she's been married so many times. And she seems to have an obsession with like getting a man to leave another woman or to be, and I'm sure this predates all of this, like something with her family of origin. Like her looks, her body were the only sense of power she ever felt like she had. Because of their weird faith in the end of days, she's almost come up with this idea that she's put these children out of misery.
Yes.
That, like, she's doing them a favor, which is even more terrifying. All of the people that actually have been deceased because of this weird offshoot, they
believe that.
Yes.
Yeah. That is, and that's what is interesting to me, is that she hasn't ever come out of that. She still thinks that, even with some of the treatment that she's undergone. So she's still in this place. Like when you're watching her in this interview, this is why I found it so fascinating, is you're looking at her face and the way that she closes her eyes and kind of turns her head. It is just, physically you can see her with, and I'm using this word on purpose, a veil in front of her that has not been lifted, though so many times this is how you lift the veil. In order to lift the veil, you have to get rid of anything in our way in order to lift the veil. She has such a thick veil in front of her, and it has never been lifted, even for a second. So when she's even at her trial and she's convicted and she's crying, I was shocked to see she was even crying, because not one tear in this interview. You never hear her crying. You just hear her completely doubling down on everything. And so she's still in this state.
Yeah.
Behind the delivery trucks that keep your life stocked, thousands of employees at BP go to work every day. People bringing a new offshore production platform online. People making our refineries capable of more, like making renewable diesel from agricultural waste. People trading and shipping fuels to our customers. And people helping truckers fill up and get maintenance at our convenient locations. They're part of the more than 300,000 jobs BP supports across the country. Learn more at bp.com/investing in America.
Looking for the ultimate night out? Experience the action from a luxury suite at Capital One Arena. Watch Ovechkin chase history as the Capitals hit the ice, or catch the Wizards take on the NBA's best. Rock out with Disturbed, vibe with Mary J. Blige, or dance the night away with Kylie Minogue. Premium seating, VIP service, and unforgettable moments all under one roof. Book your suite now at CapitalOneArena.com/premier. Capital One Arena. Watch in style, live in the moment.
I go back to that diagnosis, the unspecified personality disorder. The fact that she couldn't sit through a trial and have all of the details of the murders and not react, it's unthinkable that someone could just sit through that and their own children. Mm-hmm. I'm like, does she just compartmentalize?
Yeah.
Or is she truly void of any sort of capacity for empathy, understanding, love, anything?
I think it's the latter. It has to be, because you can't switch off like that forever. I think the damage was already done. And as we've seen and witnessed in so many cases, when you get older, your mental conditions worsen.
Yeah.
And then when you put stuff on top of that, like the hyper religiosity and your belief system, which was already there to begin with, based on her foundation and her upbringing and whatever trauma she experienced. And then you heighten that with everything. It just, you're now left with this person who wants to joke around with Keith Morrison and say things like, "I'm a talker."
Yeah, she's like trying to like make jokes with him, like she's an entertainer.
Well, and she is. Like in the personality disorder, which is, you keep hitting on that, which is so right. I mean, you can't fix a personality disorder. And I mean, I pose the question, how come with treatment, none of this delusion has lifted? And I'm really answering my own question, which is that she may be stabilized, because I don't know what state she was in when they saw her, when they deemed her, not capable of standing trial. So she must have been in a worse scenario. So where she's at right now might be her neutral, which is this personality disorder, which is devoid of any, like you said, empathy, compassion, or sense of reality. And I don't know what you were expecting with this interview, but for me, I was blown away, because first, I was very disappointed that this whole 90 minutes that they interviewed wasn't her talking and it just Q&A. Unfortunately, because she was filibustering and she wasn't answering any questions, we couldn't just watch her the whole time. And I wanted to. Yeah. What we got was a retelling of a story that we already know. And I thought, why do you keep cutting out of this interview? And they kept, silencing her and like taking her audio down. And I was like, well, they're obviously protecting her from looking, because she's not saying anything, but that's kind of what I wanted to see. I wanted to see the study of a person who won't answer a question for 90 minutes. I want to see what ramblings she has. I don't want a retell of the story.
I think I would have just opened with, talk to me about this, the belief system of your group.
That would have been a great question.
Because then she can sort of go on a tirade, and then you get a better window into like where this belief that the end of the world is coming from and why they're preparing for the end of the world and how they do so.
What were her tragedies? She said, I've had a lot of tragedies, What tragedies? I mean, I know that she's talking about the ones that just happened, but where were they in the beginning?
Right. Then maybe we can understand why their family is so strange. And as you mentioned, there is that podcast where Keith talks a little bit more about it. He said that he was curious sitting across from her and knew it would be a ride. And she had an attitude from seeing him in previous interviews. He had prepared a long list of what he wanted to talk about, but it all went out the window, as it often does in interviews. Keith said he was frustrated because Lori knew that he wasn't buying her story, but she was determined to spend the 90 minutes getting her story across. And then she would digress. He asked how she feels about Chad now, and she said that she loves Chad like she loves everybody. She's loved Chad for eternities in the past and will love him for eternities in the future. He was asked if Lori was the hardest interview. He said not the hardest, but close, but he would do it again, which surprises him. He's like, for whatever reason, as horrible as it was, I would want to go back.
Well, I loved him actually saying that on the podcast because he did seem like out of sorts talking to her. She had him on where she wanted him, which his back was up against the wall. And I don't know what he was expecting the interview to be like, but he did not expect it to be like that. So he was saying, like, once you're in that position, you're just dancing around and you're trying to figure out how to talk to this person. And so that's why he would want to do it again, because he would have a different approach. If he did, Kate, what would his approach be? How would he approach her in terms of like, what else could he have even gotten anything out of her? I don't know if anybody could.
Yeah, that's the problem too, is like a couple things is that you're talking to a liar, a pathological liar. So, and how do you make sense of anything with a person who doesn't think logically? And then the other thing is that the clock is ticking because he only had a certain period of time that he was able to talk to her. And listen, there are a lot of people on social media that are kind of ripping on him. I would have done that. You truly never know until you're in that seat interviewing people.
Oh, I think he did a great job, by the way.
Yeah, I did too. But there were a lot of people that were like, oh, you didn't ask her this. You never really know until you're in that position. And when it's compounded with a clock that's ticking, it's tremendously stressful. But I think the only thing that he could do differently was to ask, again, more about the doomsday beliefs.
I also, I agree with you with that. That would have been a great way to go in. Another thing that I would have liked to have heard him ask her to maybe disarm her in some way would be not necessarily about what happened with the kids, more like what was Tylee's favorite hobby? What was JJ's favorite food? And see how she would react if there was any connection.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Personal with her love for them, because she had to have loved her kids. I mean, if she was capable of it, but that again, I am astounded and will be astounded forever when we have people like this in a situation where clearly they're not right and they're not in an institution instead of a jail.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't mean that it doesn't take away from what I believe their judgment should be and their punishment and such. Okay, I have to ask you another question. Sorry, but I had forgotten that Chad had 5 kids.
Yeah.
So why only her kids were victims and only Tammy on his side? Like what, and where are his kids and what's happening?
Those children stand behind him, which is not really a shock because they already were raised in a family where the father, he's in charge of the family's spiritual well-being. Right. So they all stand behind him, or they stand with him, which is perplexing because their mother has been murdered, and prosecutors, I think, laid out a great case. Only her children, because for Lori, children are immaterial. It's all about the man and what the man needs. Those children presented a financial and emotional obstacle to her relationship with him. He was obsessed with her and she was obsessed with him. And they wanted a life where they could travel and they could be the cult leaders that they've always wanted to be, where people follow all of their beliefs and give them money, etc. So her kids got in the way of that. Also, his kids were like getting a little bit older. So I think it just, that to me is what goes back to the prosecution's case, that this was all about money and greed.
So wild. I wonder as the kids grow older, if they will finally realize and what they have to say about this.
I think it's so hard because, again, I think they've been raised in a community where a father is responsible for your entire spiritual well-being in this life and after. And what it seems like in the interviews that I've seen of his children, that it's like they talk like they've been programmed. So sometimes I think the only way you can kind of crack through that is to move away, to have therapy, and to be around people who show them a different and better life. I'm sure that they're trying to communicate with him through prison, and he's probably perpetuating all of the same messages. So that's a hard one.
When Lori says that she and Tylee died at birth, and she saw them, and she was in heaven, and she saw Tylee in heaven, and Tylee wanted to come back despite having passed on, and wanted to, fulfill her purpose. That to me felt like that. I don't know what number that was, but that was definitely a psychotic break. Her birth.
Yeah,
was a psychotic break.
There was also something in the Netflix documentary about she became obsessed with this idea that one of her husbands may have molested her kids.
Yeah, yes.
And that to me seemed like a breaking period too, but then also could be because she was sexually assaulted as a child. Like I couldn't protect my children in the way no one protected me. And then I think when you have that break and someone spirals and they don't get adequate help, it can be disastrous.
And you keep having those breaks.
Yeah.
And then then the delusion on top of delusion on top of delusion is where it goes out of control.
Wow. What a wild story. Well, tell everybody about what's going on your show and how people can follow you.
Well, I'm the host of Drama Darling, and it is all drama, darling. We talk Real Housewives, Bravo. Sometimes we get into some other, reality shows like Survivor right now. I'm actually doing Grosse Pointe Garden Society because I'm from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. So we're covering that NBC show. But anyway, you can check me out anywhere you get podcasts twice a week. And then over on patreon.com/dramadarling. You can follow me at Meet Amy Phillips. And I do all kinds of impersonations of housewives and all kinds of comedy stuff. Oh, and I'll be in Chicago April 2nd for a live Drama Darling. So get your tickets at the Apollo Theater, 8:00.
Nice. Thank you, Aim.
Thank you.
I want to thank my great guest, Amy Phillips, and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review, join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey to talk about this episode, and also check out all of my archived episodes as well. And you can get my what to watch list of what to watch in unscripted TV by going to katecasey.substack.com. Please follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KatecaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back for an all-new episode tomorrow.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.